Welcome to our immigration briefing show. Today, we're diving into some eye-opening stories about immigration enforcement and community reactions. First up, in Delaware, there's been an astonishing 800% increase in immigration-related cases since January, thanks to the new crackdown under Trump's enforcement initiative. This crackdown is part of Operation Take Back America, which aims to crack down on illegal immigration and dismantle criminal organizations. One notable case involves Wagner Rivera-Campusano, a man with a complicated immigration history, now facing deportation after violating the Alien Registration Act. Next, in Nashville, around 200 protesters took to the streets to oppose recent ICE operations that resulted in nearly 200 arrests. The demonstrators criticized racial profiling and inhumane treatment of immigrant communities, emphasizing the contributions of immigrants to the city. They also called for greater awareness of immigrant rights and peaceful protest. It's a reminder of the ongoing tension and activism surrounding immigration enforcement in the U.S. Finally, across the Atlantic in Germany, the government has implemented stricter border controls to combat illegal immigration. Since May, authorities have thwarted 739 illegal entries, increasing police presence and using advanced technology. This shift from Angela Merkel's open asylum policy reflects rising concerns about order and security, but it has also caused tensions with neighboring countries like Poland. These new policies mark a significant change in Germany's approach to immigration, emphasizing security over openness. Please continue to watch for more detailed stories. The New Castle County in Delaware has become a focal point of heightened immigration enforcement under the Trump administration's Operation Take Back America, with federal officials reporting an astonishing 800% surge in immigration and border security cases since January. The enforcement crackdown has led to the prosecution of individuals like Wagner Rivera-Campusano, a Dominican national who, after failing to notify authorities of his address change and being convicted of a drug felony, faces deportation. This surge reflects a deliberate shift towards aggressive mass deportations and expanded immigration enforcement policies, emphasizing the administration's focus on dismantling transnational criminal organizations and addressing violent crime, with officials anticipating this increased prosecutorial activity to persist in the coming months. Across the nation, communities in Nashville are protesting against the aggressive immigration raids that have resulted in nearly 200 arrests during a 2-week operation. About 200 protesters gathered at a street corner to voice their opposition, condemning what they see as racial profiling and inhumane treatment of immigrant communities. Speakers like Lindy Drolsom from the Nashville PSL passionately argued that ICE and local law enforcement are terrorizing working-class residents, using minor traffic violations as pretexts for arrests. The protests also highlighted a political clash, with local officials and congressional figures like Representative Andy Ogles criticizing the operations, which they claim obstruct lawful enforcement efforts. Activists emphasize the importance of using their privilege, those with documentation, to stand against the injustices faced by undocumented neighbors, as families and individuals share stories of fear, separation, and community trauma. Meanwhile, in Germany, a stark new chapter in immigration policy has unfolded with the government cracking down on border crossings, particularly at the Austria-Germany frontier. Interior Minister Alexander Dobrindt announced the implementation of stricter border controls, including turning back asylum seekers except for vulnerable groups like pregnant women and children. This shift marks a departure from Germany's previous open-door approach during Merkel's tenure, reflecting a broader political move to curb illegal immigration amid rising concerns over border security. The government has increased border patrols, deployed more police officers, and utilized advanced technology such as drones and thermal imaging to intercept illegal crossings, signaling a firm stance on immigration. This hardening of policies has stirred tensions within the EU, with neighboring countries like Poland refusing to accept refugees from Germany, illustrating the geopolitical ripple effects of Germany's new immigration agenda and the ongoing debate over Europe's approach to asylum and border management. The Toronto Star vividly describes Portugal's ongoing political turmoil as it faces its third general election within 3 years, a testament to the country's fractured political landscape and public disillusionment. The election, marked by a sense of stagnation and disenchantment among voters, is unlikely to produce a decisive majority, with polls indicating a likely return to a minority government or another fragile coalition. The dominant parties, the center-right Social Democrats and the center-left Socialist Party, continue their long-standing rivalry, yet recent scandals, including conflicts of interest involving Prime Minister Luis Montenegro's family, have eroded public trust. Meanwhile, the rise of populist parties like Chega, fueled by demands for stricter immigration policies and dissatisfaction with economic conditions, underscores the complex challenges Portugal faces. With immigration soaring, over 1.5 million legal immigrants and many more undocumented, and housing prices skyrocketing, especially in Lisbon, the nation is grappling with a housing crisis and economic hardship, as the average salary remains below €1,200. Citizens express deep frustration, feeling disconnected from political discourse and disillusioned by the perceived lack of focus on critical issues within the European Union, highlighting a nation caught between economic struggles and political instability. Al Jazeera emphasizes the ongoing political instability in Portugal, spotlighting the election's key issues such as immigration and the cost of living crisis that dominate the campaign narrative. Prime Minister Luís Montenegro's government, weakened after losing a confidence vote, called for snap elections amid allegations of conflicts of interest involving his family's consulting firm, an accusation he firmly denies. Polls suggest that Montenegro's Democratic Alliance is poised to lead but unlikely to secure a parliamentary majority, with far-right party Chega poised to hold a significant third-place position, potentially wielding influence as a kingmaker. The election campaign is deeply focused on economic concerns, especially the soaring housing costs and immigration influx, which have become central to voter anxieties. With Portugal's economy strained, average wages remain modest, and housing prices continue to climb, citizens are eager for stability. Montenegro's call for a strong mandate to end political instability resonates, and although he remains optimistic about forming a stable government, the election results will ultimately determine the country's path forward amid persistent economic and social challenges. The Toronto Star reveals a compelling story about Canadian citizenship, challenging the stereotype that it is merely a tool for convenience or mobility. A recent Statistics Canada report highlights that immigrants who have obtained citizenship, particularly those from developed nations or who took longer to naturalize, are actually more committed to remaining in Canada. The data shows that over 90% of naturalized immigrants maintain an active presence in the country 10 years after acquiring citizenship, debunking the myth that many are just citizens of convenience seeking the benefits of a passport to leave at will. Interestingly, recent immigrants from developing countries like the Philippines exhibit even higher retention rates than those from Western nations, illustrating a deeper, long-term attachment to Canada despite the challenges of integration and rising living costs. BBC's coverage exposes a concerning attempt by far-right extremists to infiltrate and influence the Reform UK Party, aiming to shift its policies toward extremist, anti-immigration, and pro-white agendas. Influencers like David Clues and Mark Collett, with ties to neo-Nazi ideologies and hate groups, are covertly working to embed themselves within the party, urging supporters to seek candidacies and influence from within. Their strategy involves disguising their far-right affiliations and leveraging Reform's platform to push for policies such as mass deportations and demographic shifts favoring white Britons. The party's existing vetting process is criticized as weak, raising fears that these extremist elements could gain influence and undermine efforts to keep such ideologies out of mainstream politics. Meanwhile, RFI presents a poignant narrative from Ken about the resilience of women migrants in Tunisia, a story often overshadowed by more sensationalized migration tales. Director Sahiri, blending documentary and fiction, focuses on three women, Marie, Nane, and Jolie, whose lives are intertwined by the harsh realities of migration, displacement, and hope. Their stories, rooted in real experiences and rich with humor and warmth, depict their struggles with police brutality, detention, and the constant threat of deportation, yet also showcase their unwavering resilience and dreams of Europe. The film emphasizes the importance of giving voice to women's stories within the broader migration discourse, portraying their courage and humanity amid adversity, and challenging the stereotypical narratives often seen in the media. The BBC reports a concerning development in the UK's social care sector, where proposed changes to immigration laws threaten to destabilise the industry. The government's white paper suggests that care workers on sponsored visas would need to stay in the UK for 10 years before qualifying for permanent residency, doubling the current 5-year requirement. This policy has sparked fears among care providers and overseas workers alike, with many describing it as a betrayal of trust and a potential catalyst for care home closures. For example, Mahesh Patel of Oakville Care Homes warns that many facilities could shut down due to the loss of overseas staff, which constitutes a significant portion of their workforce. Care workers like Folake from Nigeria express profound disappointment, emphasizing their love for their jobs and the community they've built, now threatened by policies that could force them to leave or face legal uncertainty. Politicians like Sir Keir Starmer defend the reforms as a means to control immigration and create a fair system, but the sector remains deeply worried about the immediate impact on high-quality care and employment stability. Deutsche Welle highlights Germany's intensified border controls as part of a broader crackdown on illegal immigration, a shift driven by the new coalition government's agenda. Interior Minister Alexander Dobrandt's visit to the Austria-Germany border in Kiefersfelden exemplifies this hardline stance, with increased police presence and stricter measures, including turning back asylum seekers at the border unless they are deemed vulnerable. This crackdown marks a departure from Angela Merkel's open-door policy during the 2015 refugee crisis, reflecting the government's desire to prioritize order and security. The move has sparked tension with neighboring countries, notably Poland, which refuses to accept refugees from Germany, illustrating the complexities of European migration policy. Chancellor Merz's promise to limit annual asylum applications to 100,000 contrasts sharply with the 229,751 first-time asylum requests in 2022, revealing the government's intent to tighten borders amidst rising nationalist sentiments and electoral pressures from the far right. Al Jazeera reports the United States' unprecedented move to charge a foreign national with terrorism-related support for a Mexican cartel, marking a significant expansion of the definition of terrorism. Maria del Rosario Navarro Sanchez, from Mexico, faces federal charges for allegedly providing grenades to the CJNG cartel and assisting in smuggling migrants, weapons, and drugs. This case underscores the Trump administration's policy shift, which began early in his second term with the designation of certain drug cartels and gangs as foreign terrorist organizations, a label that broadens the scope of criminal accountability. Critics warn that such designations could criminalize routine activities of vulnerable civilians, such as paying protection fees or paying smugglers, blurring the lines between organized crime and terrorism. The case also exemplifies the U.S. government's focus on disrupting transnational criminal networks, with Navarro Sanchez's arrest and the seizure of firearms and narcotics highlighting the ongoing efforts to combat organized crime's influence on national security. The Australian Broadcasting Corporation reports that Visa and MasterCard are pioneering a revolutionary step in digital payments by developing AI-powered agents capable of browsing, selecting, and purchasing items on behalf of consumers. These AI agents will give users the ability to set specific spending limits and preferences, with the AI managing transactions within those parameters. Developed in partnership with tech giants like Microsoft and Samsung, these platforms aim to integrate seamlessly into everyday shopping, making transactions faster and more automated. While the companies emphasize that consumers will retain control and final approval over purchases, concerns about security and the potential for misuse remain. Banks and retailers are cautious about adopting this technology, primarily due to the risks of fraud and the need for thorough vetting, but experts believe the deployment of such AI-driven payment systems could happen within the next year, transforming how Australians interact with their finances. Yahoo US details the defiant stance of New England's attorneys general, who are united in their opposition to the policies of the Trump administration. At a recent town hall, these legal leaders openly challenged federal actions on immigration, energy, and civil rights, declaring that they are prepared to hold the government accountable through ongoing litigation. The gathering underscored a broader resistance among Democratic attorneys general, who are actively fighting against what they perceive as an encroaching authoritarianism and unconstitutional overreach. They also discussed the challenges of countering federal authority, especially around immigration enforcement, with some officials emphasizing their willingness to withhold cooperation and push back against federal oversteps. The attorneys general expressed confidence in their collective efforts, asserting that their legal battles are vital to protecting democratic principles and regional interests amid a politically charged environment. South China Morning Post reports that the U.S. Department of Homeland Security is contemplating a controversial new approach to immigration patriotism, an outlandish reality TV competition designed to test potential citizens' loyalty. The proposed show would feature immigrants competing in various challenges, from mining for gold to assembling vintage cars, all aimed at proving their dedication to American values. The idea, still under review, has sparked mixed reactions, with some viewing it as a creative way to promote civic duty, while others see it as a dystopian spectacle reminiscent of The Hunger Games. This initiative emerges amidst aggressive efforts by the Trump administration to tighten immigration policies, including attempts to revoke protected statuses for vulnerable groups and increase deportations. Critics argue that such entertainment-based citizenship tests trivialize the serious process of immigration and citizenship, raising concerns about the implications for human dignity and national identity. Thank you for tuning in. The content above showcases the latest briefing reports and analytical synopses, thoughtfully curated by the 6Do team. These insights stem from a wide array of reputable media outlets, think tanks, government sources, and specialized experts worldwide. We encourage you to explore these sources for a comprehensive perspective. Keep in mind that while the content may not always align with the official standpoint of 6 Brief, it's not meant to be taken as absolute directives for decision-making. Comprising seasoned media professionals, learned scholars, and accomplished scientists, the 6 team embodies a trailblazing, fully independent media entity. To customize 6 Brief to meet your professional needs, you have the option to subscribe to a diverse array of briefings on our website, 6dobrief.com. Regardless of your location, you can conveniently receive 6 Brief via email.
News breaks, buzz the ground, stories spin, walls come down, voices merge in the sound, faces mix in the crowd, broadcasters paint the scene, world events on our screen, every link a different theme, words collide in the stream, 6 degrees connect the dots, background stories more than us. Hear the voices rise aloud, truth unveils in every spot, cultures clash across the globe, spin the threads in a strobe, every story wears a robe, truth and lies in their code, journalists dig real deep, secrets out, they don't sleep, every angle they will keep. In the news we take a leap, new perspectives day by day, hidden truths come to play, in the background shades of gray, every story